I'm not letting Stefanski off the hook in this relationship.
No Peterlin pass for Stefanski here?
Zero Peterlin pass when it comes to Stefanski. Part of the reason why I'm so angry, and part of the reason why I'll remain angry, is that after week 4, you went to Dillon Gabriel. You went to Dillon Gabriel for 6 weeks until the concussion. If Dillon Gabriel didn't get concussed, I don't know with certainty you ever would have even gone to Shedeur Sanders. So
they would not have.
I can't with good conscience say that all of a sudden, because you stumbled into a situation where it seems like Shedeur Sanders has given the season some sense of life and purpose, that I get to give you credit for this. And I will not ever turn around and say, Stefanski, you did this the right way. You've really done Shedeur well. All these type of things. No. This was a Dillon Gabriel injury that ended up getting him into play. And on top of it, the idea that in week 5, you looked at Dillon Gabriel and said, that guy's going to play? That guy's better than Shedeur Sanders? That alone to me is enough for me to be pissed off about the whole ordeal. You can tell me that Shedeur and Stefanski get along fine. Okay. First off, I have a hard time thinking that's how Shedeur thinks about it, but I'm not here to speak for Shedeur. I don't buy what's happening right now around the Shedeur-Stefanski discourse and the idea that they're best of buddies and Stefanski's always been looking out for his best interest. I just don't buy it.
Well, I don't buy the theory that Stefanski has been deliberately undermining or sabotaging Shedeur.
And I don't take it to that extreme either.
I don't like the nonsense. So he won't even talk to him in timeouts. Hello, there's video of him doing that all the time.
Correct.
Or, the people were furious because he didn't get a game ball. He didn't give Dillon Gabriel a game ball after his first win.
No, he did give Deshaun Watson one, though, and that's worth noting. But either way, the point is, you're right.
We're really going down the path of breaking down game ball distribution.
And that was dumb, and I told you yesterday, I hated that was a conversation yesterday that people had to have, but people had to have those conversations. The point is, I'm happy you brought that up. I don't go to that end of the spectrum either, okay? I don't think Stefanski's sabotaging him. He
was the fourth quarterback on the depth chart for pretty much the entire offseason training camp.
But where I get to go ahead and say, Stefanski, you didn't do your job right, is that your own assessment told you like Dillon Gabriel more, you started Dillon Gabriel more. That's not me saying that you're undermining or you're cutting down Shedeur Sanders. That's me saying you stink at evaluating. That's me saying you're not good at the evaluating quarterback process if you genuinely thought that Dillon Gabriel throwing the ball 5 yards a throw was going to be better for the team and was going to provide better results than what Shedeur Sanders can do. That's where I have a problem.
But I think the 5-yard throws from Dillon were choices made by Dillon. I don't think Stefanski's on the sideline calling 5-yard pass plays.
Okay, but he had all practice and he had all training camp when people like yourself were saying Dillon Gabriel isn't it, okay? He had that entire time to sit back and watch and see how that was going down, and he still went with Dillon Gabriel anyway. And he was going to, as you just mentioned 45 seconds ago, he was going to ride with Dillon for as long as Dillon remained healthy. So he has to be culpable in this. The problem I have is that too many people are now giving him that Peterlin pass. They're letting him off the hook, and in turn, starting to give him credit for this relationship he has with Shedeur. And if I hear one more person be like, oh, he spent so much time after practice, it was with Shedeur. Great, he spent 10 minutes after every practice with Shedeur. I'm not saying that he tried to sink Shedeur's career. I don't think that's true either. I think he genuinely was trying to help out Shedeur as best as he could. The part I need to make sure that he's culpable for, though, is the part when you looked in the two players and you saw the two players and you said, Dillon's better than him.
I think
that's the part where that evaluation is so off that I can't just say, okay, Stefanski, you deserve a pass here.
But I think that the evaluation was who's ready to play. Okay? Knowledge of the offense, understanding of I think
see where that got you. See what happened. You won the game against a professional team on Sunday.
I understand, but at the time, their thing was Dillon gets what's going on. Shedeur is not getting what's going on.
And as of right now, it looks like they were wrong in that assessment. And so, that's, again, another thing that I have to hold them culpable for. The idea that because you think something magical happened in 5 weeks, and Shedeur Sanders was a backup quarterback getting no reps?
Well, forget about 5 weeks. Try 6 days.
Nothing happened. Nothing changed.
Because Shedeur looked like a different quarterback from second half Baltimore and the 4 quarters against the Raiders. He looked like a different player.
Because they actually had the game plan for him, and he actually got to go ahead and be in an offense that was catered to him.
Which led to
something that he wanted to do.
Imagine if they give me an offseason comment.
You think that was some sort of magical thing that Stefanski pulled off in 5 days? No, I think Shedeur was always going to play that way. I think Shedeur would have played that way last year in January if you put him on a field with the Browns and gave him 6 days to get ready. I get lost in the idea that Stefanski somehow gets some sort of glow up period and some sort of glaze from the media attached to what? Attached to the idea that you believed in a 40-year-old Joe Flacco and then believed in Dillon Gabriel, and as we've already established, would have believed in Dillon Gabriel for the rest of the season if not for a concussion. It missed me on that. I don't understand it.
Do you believe Stefanski is the one making the decisions? Do you believe that he is 100% in charge of who's playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns?
I don't know at this point. Are we talking about Justin making Shedeur the quarterback? I think he was forced to because he already made Shedeur the backup, and then Dillon Gabriel is obviously he was concussed because he was forced into that.
He was forced into Joe Flacco not being here. They made that move without consulting him.
Well, and we can get into the too many cooks in the kitchen part of this conversation.
But that's my point, is I don't know that Stefanski's solely driving the bus on everything. He might be the head coach. He might be getting players ready. He might all those type of things. But when you're talking about... So
you don't think he made Dillon Gabriel the quarterback?
I don't know that he 100%...
Okay, so I can answer that one as clear as day. I think he made Dillon Gabriel the quarterback.
Okay.
I think he liked Dillon Gabriel as evidenced by
between Dillon Gabriel, Bailey Zappi, and Shedeur Sanders, and I think he went with the third round pick.
But again, that being that decision,
at that time, after they traded Joe Flacco, that's not a great decision to have to make.
And me believing that he was the one that made that decision, and he put Dillon out there because he's like Dillon, talked about Dillon, expressed his supercomputer fandom for Dillon the entire way. That's what I hold him responsible for.
I'll meet you halfway on. He should have moved off Dillon Gabriel regardless of the concussion. I will meet you there. Yes, 100%. He should have, after 5 games, been like, okay, we saw what we needed to see from Dillon. It's not getting better week to week. The prep might be there, the understanding of the offense might be there, but the production on the field, the decisions being made on the field, they're all awful. The results on the field are just as awful. Should move on to Shedeur. I will meet you there that he should have not needed to have Dillon Gabriel suffer a concussion to then have the epiphany and the light bulb go off, or the organizational decision made that, yes, Shedeur Sanders can start against the San Francisco 49ers because he played well enough against the Las Vegas Raiders to earn that opportunity.
All right, let's hear from Mary Kay. Mary Kay talked about the Stefanski-Shedeur relationship on middays. Here we go.
People just keep wanting to read something into the Kevin Stefanski Shedeur Sanders relationship that is not there. It's just not true. It's complete fiction. I mean, the things that people should be paying attention to are all the extra time the Browns have taken to develop Shedeur Sanders and all the one-on-one time Kevin Stefanski has spent in his office going over his tape from the day before. That's not something that Kevin was ever going to tell us. Myles Garrett revealed that, and then we got it out of Kevin. Rest assured, they've been working very, very hard with Shedeur to get him to this point.
Yeah, listen, I don't think that Stefanski wants anything but Shedeur to succeed. I need to make that abundantly clear because I feel like some people that are on Shedeur's side, they think that the Stefanski hates Shedeur and all these other type of things. Only thing I've ever said when it comes to hating Shedeur or anything like that is I never thought Stefanski loved Shedeur's game, how he plays in particular. That's the only thing I've ever said. From a personal standpoint, I'm sure they get along great, and it is what it is. But the reality is that you still went a long period of time telling everyone that Dillon Gabriel was better than Shedeur Sanders. And like that misevaluation alone, if Shedeur continues to win games and play like he did on Sunday and stretching the field and moving the field vertically, that's where I just won't let Stefanski off the hook. That's where I need to say, okay, that misevaluation right there, that's enough for me at the forefront of it all.
Well, and again, I can't argue him having the thought of moving on from Dillon Gabriel instead of waiting for an injury to do so. But again, I go back to the training camp press conference. Jimmy Haslam said, Kevin knows we have to see the young
Right, he
players.
called it out. Yeah.
Right? He knows that that's the object of one of the things that needs to get checked off. You got to win more games than you did last year. We got to see both young quarterbacks, right? Well, and I specifically asked Kevin, and I knew he wasn't going to answer the question, but I wanted to get it on the record. The timetable. What is the timetable? Do you know when you're going to... This was pre-concussion of Dillon Gabriel. Do you know when you're going to play Shedeur Sanders? And he basically said, yeah, I haven't gotten that far. I'm not going to get into all that. I do think they had the timetable behind the scenes of when they were going to make the change so that they would give Shedeur the opportunity. It just so happened to be, shocking, the undersized quarterback got banged up, and now Shedeur goes in, plays well enough.
Well, but it's not only that. It's like we have the concussion, and then everyone else reports after the fact. Oh, it was always going to be a redshirt season for Shedeur. So which one is it? Did they have the timetable set, or was it always going to be a redshirt season?
The timetable could have been there wasn't going to be a change, and it was going to be a redshirt season for Shedeur.
Okay, but then that would have been malpractice in and of itself. Like, in my opinion, that would have been them making a mistake.
Also,
and once again, continuing to make a mistake.
Would have been also against Jimmy Haslam's wishes of wanting to see both quarterbacks this year on the field.
Exactly, it would have. At times in our conversation in the first segment, it felt like you wanted to come to my side of the fence with it, and then at other times it felt like you wanted to go to the other side of the fence with it. And then at other times, it felt like you wanted to take the conversation in a completely different direction. Where exactly are you on the Stefanski-Shedeur discourse? Because it drives me up the wall, the amount of people that want to give kudos to Stefanski, when if at the very best, he stumbled into this situation. At the very best.
Well, we're acting like Shedeur set the world on fire Sunday in Las Vegas, and he threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
No, but he did do something that we haven't seen Dillon Gabriel do.
He completed a pass over 20 yards.
But that's where the conversation starts and stops. Did your guy in Dillon Gabriel, and I say your guy in Stefanski.
Not my guy.
I say your guy in Stefanski, did he in 6 games do anything close to what Shedeur did?
No, absolutely not.
The end of conversation. We're not talking about Shedeur being the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. That's not really, the win isn't there. The win is the idea that in evaluating 2 quarterbacks, Dillon Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders, one was heavily weighted in Stefanski's favor that he liked Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur.
And gave him first-team reps and team OTAs and mini camps and training camps and everything, right?
All of it. And so the end result that I have now...
Shedeur got to throw to the ball boys.
It's not that you made Shedeur be something special. It's that you don't know what you're doing when it comes to evaluating these quarterbacks to begin with. Like, the reason why we're on quarterback number 13 with Shedeur maybe isn't the hardest thing in the world to figure out if your evaluation is Dillon Gabriel better than Shedeur Sanders, and on top of it, Dillon Gabriel is the one that is ready to play, and Shedeur needs to be sitting on the sidelines and can't even function in an NFL offense, when then you watch him on Saturday, and not only did he function, he won the game in a blowout.
Or Sunday.
Sorry, did I say Saturday?
You said Saturday.
I got Ohio State on my mind. You know what I'm talking about here. The point remains, like, if that's your evaluation, then you stink at evaluating.
Well,
I question your evaluations moving forward.
Well, there's the draft politics involved, too. The Dillon Gabriel was the 3rd-round pick. He was drafted nearly 100 spots in front of Shedeur. They had no plan. They had no plans to draft him. They drafted him just on a whim. I call it the why. I can't say what I really call it, but I call it the why not pick.
All right, but when he gets in your building, though, and you see some of the stuff we saw in training camp, and you see some of the talent that is displayed, that part of your evaluation has to overcome it. You're the one that said Dillon didn't look as good as... What'd you say with the Water Boys? What was your insult?
Shedeur, well, they ran out of wide receivers, so in a lot of drills, Shedeur had to throw to the...
When you compare Dillon Gabriel.
Oh, yeah, he should have been... he shouldn't have been on the depth chart ahead of the Water Boys.
So,
I was being funny, and by the way, I was quote-tweeting our good friend Albert Breer, who was talking about the progress that Dillon was making.
You saw it in training camp. Yeah. I saw it in training camp. We all saw it in training camp. This wasn't hard.
I know.
This evaluation wasn't hard, and he blew it, Stefanski, that is. He blew the evaluation.
No, I would say the organization blew the evaluation.
I mean, I think it's his job to decide who's the quarterback and who's out there playing.
I think it should be his job who's deciding who the quarterback is and who's playing, and I'm not convinced that 100% it is.
Okay, tell me otherwise then. Tell me he wasn't the one that puts the Dillon Gabriel out there, and then I'll let him off the hook. If you tell me right now you know with certainty that it was somebody not named Kevin Stefanski that put him out there, I'll let him off the hook.
I don't know that for certainty, so I can't tell you that.
All right, then. What are we doing?
I'm just going to tell you that he certainly didn't tell them to trade Joe Flacco.
I don't think it was Andrew Berry.
Forced Dillon Gabriel on the field.
Well, hold on.
I don't think Kevin was crazy about that idea.
Who was it? Because I don't think it was Andrew Berry, and I don't think
Andrew Berry made the trade.
I don't think it's Jimmy Haslam. No, he made the trade to get rid of Joe Flacco. He didn't make any sort of trade outside of the...
And guess what hand that left Kevin Stefanski? And left him to pick between Bailey Zappi, Shedeur Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel.
So you agree? So you agree that he picked
Gabriel.
So you agree that he picked. His pick was wrong. That's the point of this.
He was supposed to pick Shedeur Sanders?
Yes, that's the point. That's what you saw on Sunday. And meanwhile, in the process of it all, he let everybody think that Shedeur couldn't even hold a football.
But you're discounting the draft politics that go on.
I'm not discounting anything. I'm saying open up your eyes. I'm not beholden to a third-round pick
Kevin
if that's what it ends up being.
Kevin would have thrown Andrew Berry under the bus if he would have picked Shedeur over Dillon, because Berry picked Dillon 2 rounds in front of Shedeur.
Barry also picked Shedeur, and Barry's the only one, and this is what has been reported through different sources, Barry's the only one that it feels like actually believes in Shedeur in any sort of way between the two of these guys.
Well, if you watch the video, the post-game video from the locker room, and
I know, he looked like a proud papa. Andrew Berry seemed like he was over the moon with excitement at the idea that Shedeur was able to pull off what he did on Sunday. Like, so I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now and kind of where I'm coming at.
See, this is the beauty of the Cleveland Browns. Nobody knows who's responsible for anything. We went through this with Paul DePodesta, right? They have plausible deniability at all levels of the organization.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I've already called for Stefanski to be fired a year ago, for Andrew Berry to be fired a year ago. It's not as if all of a sudden Berry is let off the hook in any of this nonsense either.
You know what?
Like, if we're being honest with it, the whole entire organization, doesn't matter who made the call, ultimately, the whole organization doesn't get a pass if Shedeur works out. You all then were selectively together in the Dillon Gabriel camp, and I want nothing to do with that.
I think I just picked the new branding for my fantasy football team next year.
Yeah,
it's going to be plausible deniability. That's going to be the
right
team
now,
name.
you're the one giving them all sorts of plausible deniability. You're creating deniability for them.
I'm not creating anything. I'm telling you the way it is. That's how that organization works. You have no idea who's making any decisions. And that's the way they want it. They don't want you to know who's making decisions. They didn't want you to know what Paul DePodesta did for the organization. Okay? They don't want you to know who's making the actual personnel
but what
decisions.
Part of this should I be giving them more leeway, though? Because if I'm going to group them all together, then we can make them all responsible. But if I'm going to make them all responsible, then they all take fault for putting Dillon ahead of Shedeur and running that message across. And in turn,
they should have never drafted Dillon ahead of Shedeur.
They don't get to then do these weird, almost quasi-victory laps, it feels like people in the media are doing for them in suggesting, well, Stefanski
I'm not doing any victory laps.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. The other people that are having the discourse on it are talking as if all of a sudden Stefanski really got Shedeur to where he needed to be and I just think that's hogwash. I don't think there's anything Stefanski did that set him up to succeed, and I think the storyline is going to be for the remaining weeks that this goes on, if he continues to look good, the storyline is going to be what a great job the Browns did with Shedeur. What a great job the Browns did in getting Shedeur ready.
They didn't put him on the field too fast.
Yeah, okay. I mean, but that's where I argue with this, though. Like, it's like they were so worried about putting him out there. They acted as if he couldn't hold a football, nonetheless run an offense. And then you get a concussion, you put him out there, and all of a sudden, after one game where he gets a week to actually figure things out and then start, he looks good. And it's like, oh, well, great job handling of him. Okay, or he would have looked this way in week 5, and you had a chance to save the season in week 5 instead of throwing Dillon Gabriel out there, which gave you loss after loss after loss and an incompetent offense.
You honestly think Shedeur could have saved the season in week 5?
I don't know, but I know Dillon didn't. That's the whole point is I know Dillon didn't. I don't know if Shedeur will or won't, but I know that Dillon didn't. And you had this great defense that just got wasted away, and you had an offense that couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field and was always destined to fail. That's where I get angry about it, Daryl. That's where I just get so mad about it.
That's the Browns team motto, destined to fail.
If in fact Shedeur ends up giving you this jolt, and if you beat the 49ers and you go on and you start winning games and you do all these other things, I just need people to take a deep breath and say to themselves, we could have had this in week 5. It was right there in front of you. We could have had it in week 5. And the idea that 6 weeks of letting him sit in back of Dillon Gabriel, not throwing a football, is all of a sudden the difference in that, that's hogwash too, Daryl. I hate that rhetoric. Absolutely hate it. It gets my blood boiling. I can't stand that nonsense. I cannot stand it.